We are here to discuss the future, focus on the future, and set it right. This pandemic has given us the opportunity to do it right, start from scratch, and build a better future for all of us and the next generations to follow. And talking about the future, I think COVID-19 has locked us in, but it has also set free a lot of ideas, and many of them have taken flight in the last few months. Just like video conferences became the norm, so did online education. And overnight, some of the people, young entrepreneurs who were working in this domain for years together, have been thrust into the spotlight and have become billionaires overnight. And one such gentleman is our next guest, the first one for Global Trends Festival 2020, the first fireside chat with Baiju Ravindran, the founder of Byju's, the world's most valued edtech startup. Baiju, welcome to Business Insiders Global Trends Festival 2020. I can't tell you how excited I am to have you with us today. It is definitely, I mean, you make the entire country proud, and I can't tell you how inspiring your story, your growth, the meteoric rise that we have seen in the last few months. You have raised about $1 billion. The valuation has gone up by about $3 billion. And you've already done a $300 million acquisition with that money. In fact, data says that you are second only to Asia's richest man, Mukesh Ambani, in terms of the amount of money that anybody has raised in India in the last 6 months, during this pandemic, during this lockdown. I'm really tempted to ask, is that it, or is there going to be more news from your side?
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. So I'll start by telling that, there is a lot more to come in terms of, because these are very early days in terms of what technology can do for learning, education. And just like most of us will continue meeting online even on the other side of the crisis, I'm sure good part of online learning is here to stay. So exciting times ahead. That also puts us with a lot of responsibility in terms of helping more students to enable or learn online, helping them becoming active learners. The major difference between what you learn inside a classroom within the discipline and the schedule of our regular sessions compared to when you learn from a screen, when you are learning from home, is that it requires students to be become more and more active learners. So it's more of a pull-based learning and not the push-based learning. So if we can achieve even now part of it.
Baiju, I had written this question down and I wanted to ask you this a little later in the interview, but since you have brought it up, I want to touch upon this a little, go a little deeper. This is a feedback from a lot of parents that, Baiju was great until it was fun and for the children. But the moment it becomes a compulsory study material and something that they have to do every day, the way they engage with it has been different. Have you received this feedback, or is it a little different from what I'm saying? And how do you plan to I think you were headed there. So let us hear a little more about how do you plan to deal with this?
Okay, so it's very different in terms of how kids learn at individual level, at subject level, at grade level. So what we have done is, for the early age group, we have used a lot of these movie-like videos, game-like interactions, making sure that they get interested in the subject, they like what they see on the screen, they interact with the screen a lot. So by bringing that interactivity, we have been able to get engagement. But at the end of the day, we are an education company because our core strength, our core expertise have always been in terms of how do you simplify a concept, how do you help them visualize the concept, how do you help them contextualize a topic. So by doing this, now the challenge, as I mentioned, was always about. So we have a large set of free users, but those who get into this habit of learning from a screen, and once they start using it a few times a week, that's when they move to a paid user. How do you convince them that they can learn from a screen? Because everyone talks about spoon feeding. It's unfortunately learning driven by fear of exams and not love for learning. So I'll say, like, slowly but surely, where we have found this balance is we have kept it engaging enough for students to start using the application. And once they get into it, and once they get into this habit of learning on their own, it's not just about learning from a screen. The bigger challenge is, once we create that active learning habit in students, they continuously learn from it. The biggest number speaks for itself. The most important number which we track and very closely year after year is what percentage of the students of our continuous users or paid users continue on the platform, where they have to actually spend money again. So we've just completed 5 years, 5 cycles of annual renewals, and we finished the year at more than 80% retention. Now that's a clear validation of its effectiveness, because parents won't spend again if the students are just using the product. Only if it is useful, only if it's beneficial. And how will they measure these outcomes? Now, fortunately, unfortunately, they will only look at the academic scores, whether the marks are improving, right? So we have to show that result. Otherwise, it's very difficult to sustain even this long. I'm not telling we have made such a big impact. It's still relative success. We are at like we have 70 million free users and 4.7 million paid users. So it's still a very small percentage of the student population, those who have become active learners. But that's the main objective is how do we create self learners, active learners, and that's actually because I always tell century literates are not the ones who can't read and write. They are the ones who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn.
But what am so you spoke about your paid users, 4.7 million and 70 million free users. What is your strategy going to be to get them from using the freebies to getting onto a paid platform?
Out of the 70 million, I would want to call out one more number. In the first 4.5 years, we were able to get around 45 million free users on the platform. But in the next 5 months, we added more than 25 million users. So a lot of them are trying out online learning, and that's happening more than ever before. And that's where it eventually took a crisis like this, unfortunately, for a lot of people to try out online learning. And all stakeholders, right? Not just students. It's always easy to change the way students learn. It's a lot tougher to change the way teachers teach. Institutions are trying to go online. Parents are accepting this as a mainstream format of learning, not as a replacement of school, but especially when they learn at home. Now, the formats which we are able to provide using by creating products at the intersection of content, media, and technology. The right way to describe how I'll describe what we do is as an education media technology company, because all of what you see on the platforms, whether it's movie like videos, game like interactions, it's all created in-house. So platform is owned by us, but now we are able, because of which we are able to control the quality, but more importantly, we are able to personalize the way students get the next lesson. Now it's based on the proficiency level. Obviously, for an entertainment platform, it's very easy to personalize because you can do it just based on what students like. Here we have to personalize based on their level of understanding. So there we have improved a lot, obviously, over the last 5 years after learning from users, because as I mentioned, there is no playbook for success in this segment. This is almost like a pioneering effort in creating an edtech product and not edtech services, right? Education is always about like someone sitting next to them teaching them either in a classroom of one-to-many or one-to-one. So if you look at that, on how we have improved conversion is by by building a brand name, more importantly by creating segment awareness. We have been able to convince more and more students to try this out now, even before crisis. Now currently the crisis is obviously helping us because everybody is going through one or the other format of online learning, and that's been that will
I
accelerate
think
our growth.
that Baiju, that leads me to the next question, honestly, and I want you to dwell on that a little bit, which is essentially, and I sense a certain Feynman technique of learning, as you go, and sort of learning by teaching, and that I think is a great thought for all our teachers. And I think the fact that you are a teacher brings that little layer to this product. The way people learn that you spoke about just now, there is online, there is offline, and there is blended. Where do you see, what is the future? Is it going to be all online, or is it going to be, well, online is a phase, move to offline, or is it going to be some kind of a blended format? What are you betting on?
Yeah, like an ideal format is the best of both, because there are a lot of things which can be taught better online, and there are a lot of subjects which can only be taught offline, right? So how do you, like subjects like to be more specific,
and that's exactly my next question, because your answer to whether online, offline, or blended, what is the right model, is also important for the price discovery of your product. So where does it stand right now according to you? Are the current prices a typical e-commerce model, a starting price, and it's going to be much higher, let's say 4 years, 5 years from now? Or is this pretty much it, and whatever the natural inflation happens will happen?
Yeah, like the pricing it's going to be similar to what we have been keeping for the last 4-5 years, which is like on an average like 14-15,000 per year for the subscription of the learning app. It varies from age group to age group. There are age groups where it's higher and where it's lower, and so on an average 1,200 to 1,500 rupees per month. And so I don't think we will increase the price here other than the natural inflation. On the other side, if we are still figuring out how do we offer products for now currently our products are predominantly in English. By creating something in regional languages at possibly at half the price points, there is an opportunity to help lot more students like learn continuously from the platform. Now we have not yet figured out the monetization over there, though we have created products and we are already offering it to the free users an opportunity to learn in English as well as in the regional language. But there's an opportunity to create a low value, like high volume business model. But more importantly, helping lot more students to actually learn continuously from the platform. And I also would want to call out that for the bottom 1/3 of the students, unfortunately, they don't even have access to a screen today. That's why the digital divide which everybody talks about do exist. But I strongly believe our best chance to give them access to good quality education is by using technology as an enabler and through smartphones and these screens, because building more schools, getting more good teachers into our classrooms, that's a lot more expensive and impossible to solve at scale. So like physical divide, today everybody is talking about digital divide, but the physical divide, the inequities which exist in our physical world of education, that's so much more glaring and I'll say almost impossible to solve, or it requires a lot more investment than making sure that students have access to a smartphone or a screen and then making the content available to them, the same content which their metro counterparts have access to. And that's where I think there is an opportunity, or there is promise around solving that challenge. And then there is a strong intent to do it, because I come from a school like that.
I think that is very important, and in fact I agree with you that the moment there is a new idea, the criticism comes faster than the solutions. And honestly, the reason why this idea was born, and I'm not talking just about your idea, any new idea, is because the older idea failed to address a certain gap. But the responsibility to fill that gap cannot fall entirely on the new idea, and that is something that I completely share with you. And I think we have completely timed out here, and I therefore, based on all that we have spoken here and all that you have shared with us today, I think I need to ask if blended learning is the future, and you believe that a school or a physical interaction with teachers and fellow students is important, and of course there is a need to reach a wider pool of students, people who have no access to education, or at least no access to good quality education. At some point in the future, maybe not now, maybe not in the next couple of years, are we going to see a Byju's school building upon the brand and sort of giving it some real life framework?
No, we are very clear that what we have created is to create more active learners when they learn, especially when they learn at home, complementing the current schools and the synchronous learning which happens inside a classroom. Here itself, there is so much to be done here. We want to stay focused on what we know best, because at the end of the day, for you to continue making an impact, for you to be relevant even after a decade, and that's how I think you differentiate good companies from great companies, and we have a long way to go before
Definitely.
we call ourselves. So for us, it's important to stay true to like finding that right balance between speed, efficiency, and also focus. So we will stay focused on what we know best, which is helping more and more students to fall in love with learning.